You know, the WWE Ultimate Edition line from Mattel is their highest, most sought-after, high-quality goods that they offer at a price point. It's above the main events or the basics, it's above the elites, and elites is pretty damn good, and they have their Ultimate Edition line, offering you the best quality possible from their action figures. Well, sometimes they don't always pan out. And in this video today, man, we're going to be discussing the worst WWE Ultimate Editions of all time, according to me, of course. Now, I do have some criteria, and I'll put that up on the screen. Now, not all of this. I feel like a lot of it does come down to the execution of the figure at the end of the day, and we're going to explain why all these figures are on the list and why they made the list. And I do believe in a few days, I'm going to rank every single release of an Ultimate Edition that we've seen so far from Mattel and rank them from worst to best. We did that video a couple years ago, and I think it's time for an update. But today, man, we're going to be diving into my least favorite or the worst Ultimate Editions ever. And I want to start off with some honorable mentions, man. Let's start off with some honorable mentions. First up, we do have Shinsuke Nakamura. Now, this figure, some of these figures you're going to see in this video have been touched up. They have been adjusted in some ways. You guys know that if I have a figure that I don't like, I sometimes, you know, I'll fix it up. I'll switch a head sculpt. I'll change out the feet. I'll do some different things to try and fix it up the best that I possibly can. And with this Shinsuke, I did a couple things. I did switch out the feet. I did, you know, leave the entrance gear on, and I changed the head sculpt, I'm pretty sure. Maybe not, though. This is the Elite 63 head sculpt, I think, and it may have came with that head sculpt, but that figure's execution was very early on in the Ultimate Edition line. It still had pin joints. It just wasn't a very aesthetically pleasing figure, and that's why he's in the honorable mentions. I don't think he's the worst of the worst, but he's certainly not in my favorite Ultimates that I've ever seen from Mattel. Another Ultimate that I want to give an honorable mention to is going to be Goldberg. Now, on Action Figure Surgery episode 100, we did beef this guy up a lot. This looks a lot better than it originally did, and he probably looks a bit too beefy, but the way he came out, man, his formula, he was too skinny. I didn't like the head sculpts. I still don't like this head sculpt, to be honest with you, but I put Goldberg on my honorable mentions list. I don't know what it is, man. I just didn't like the original formula. He looked too skinny and small for me, and so I did beef him up there to, you know, kind of enhance him. Another honorable mention is going to go to Solo Sikoa. If you watch my review on this figure, you saw all the flaws that I saw with it, but mainly, it's just this formula from the leg down right here is mainly what the issue is. He has Johnny Gargano syndrome, but he also, like, dude, if you watch Solo Sikoa, he doesn't have this long thigh, this knee pad, this long shin, then this boot-style kick pad coming out, man. It just looks really bunched up and weird and long. It's a very weird deal, and he has super skinny arms, so Solo's on there. I do like the head sculpts. There's some positive things about that Solo. I like the hoodie and stuff, but I want to give an honorable mention to how bad the lower part of this formula is and how skinny his arms are. And then our last honorable mention, which is kind of like a nitpick, but I don't know, man. I wish they would do away with this. It's the Bray Wyatt stumpy legs, man. And I like this figure. I like the pitch black match Bray Wyatt here, but I think that they make his legs so stumpy for some reason, man. I mean, he was bigger than this. Look how, like, small they made his most recent one. And this is just one of the things that makes me upset about the Bray Wyatt figures, because I think they have so many details and they're so good in their own way, but at the same time, they have these frumpy legs that just are too short, and I think that they could do way better for him. So I would like to see that implemented, but these are just my honorable mentions, and, you know, there are probably other people that probably could go on the list, but, you know, I am going to do that ranking video soon, and I didn't want to include every single thing here, so I did just want to touch on some of the things that annoy me about some of these Ultimates. But let's get into the worst Ultimate Editions that Mattel's ever done, and let's start things off with a figure that I've touched up so much that it's literally fallen apart. It is going to be the Ultimate Edition Becky Lynch, and this figure right here, man, I really wanted to like this figure because I like the gear, I like the jacket, interchangeable arms. I've switched the legs. You can see how, like, loose they are. I've switched out, you know, the boots and stuff, so it is a little different. The head sculpts aren't the same, but I didn't think any of her head sculpts. They said they spent so much time on her head sculpts to make them right. Dude, they ended up looking nothing like her. I think it was one of those projects where they spent so much time obsessing over it that it ended up looking nothing like the source material, and I think that the Becky Lynch deserves a better Ultimate, man. I think she needs a better Ultimate Edition. Her head sculpts on that original figure look nothing like the character, and I think they need to go back to the drawing board with Becky Lynch. She definitely deserves another Ultimate down the road, but that is definitely on my list. And these are not in necessarily any particular order. When we do our ranking from worst to best, that is when we'll get into the order. But next up, we have the Gobbledygooker. I think that, you know, it's a very creative thing. I think it's awesome that they went outside the box and tried to do this really cool and awesome thing with the crazy sculpts. And I know this was revealed at Comic-Con all those years ago, and they finally brought it to fruition. It was a really cool thing. But at the same time, man, execution of the figure it's essentially a statue. issue, man. Like, he has no ankle rocker or anything down here. Legs are very hard to pose as well. His arm falls off like at the blink of an eye. Like, if you just look at him wrong, it falls off. You really can't articulate this guy a whole lot, and for that reason, he's on here, man. I just think that while fun and kind of gimmicky, and it's a little wink and a tongue-in-cheek deal, I still think at the end of the day, execution-wise, it's not the greatest figure. It's not the greatest figure, and it's not necessarily all his fault. He's just trying to make some money, but I don't like it. I don't know. It's just not a fun figure to pose around. It'll give me headaches trying to pose that guy around. Let's get into the next figure, man. I think this was the worst Ultimate of the year last year. It is Kevin Owens, man. This one hurt me a lot because I love Kevin Owens. If you follow the channel for any amount of time, I love Kevin Owens. I think he's fantastic. This figure's not it, man. He's way, way too small. He is legitimately tiny. Look at him up next to all these other characters. He is so tiny, man, and it's just crazy, this figure. He has super skinny arms. The gear choice wasn't the best, like, while it was his, his main event, and I was there in person for this matchup and everything, but they left off some details of the gear, which I understand they can't do everything there. It's just not the best, man. It's just not the best. I like some of the head sculpts, and it was an okay figure. It's just, man, they really missed the mark here. I hope they go back to the drawing board on him. I think they could do a Kevin Owens much, much better. That figure, if you own it, you know what I'm talking about, man. It's just a real disappointment. And right next to him is going to be his tag team partner, and I love Sami Zayn, of course, just like Kevin Owens. I do love these guys, but just like the other figure, just not the most exciting release. I think that the interchangeable head sculpts, this one's good. I didn't like the yelling head sculpt, and this formula on his legs that make his boots way too tall, not accurate to the source material either. And the Sami Zayn, I feel like it probably gets a little bit more bad rap than the Kevin Owens, but the Kevin Owens is, like, look how much taller the Sami is than the Kevin, man. Just, oh, man. And look how tall the Sami is, and Sami isn't short or something, but, man, those two figures just really missed for me. Next up, man, we are getting into John Cena, and you guys know I love John Cena, man, but the thing that kills this figure is going to be, you know what, let's just go ahead and show you why this figure is so daggum bad, man. It is going to be this egregious torso that just looks awful on just about anybody, man, but when you pair it with this body and everything like that, man, this figure just aesthetically looks just ridiculous, in my opinion. You stand back and you look at the figure, man, I just don't think this body really works for anybody. It just looks so odd to me, and I think that when you add it in there with that, like, they gave him high tops with these shorts. He's never worn high tops with this look ever, and, like, I don't know, it's very hard, and I know kind of nitpicking here, but I'm just telling you, you wear these high tops with these knee pads coming down here. There's like just a small amount of leg show. It's just a weird look for him. And then you throw in this egregious torso, which is just so bad. I can't stand that torso. It's just awful. It literally doesn't work for maybe one or two characters. And I feel like you could get away with it, but I think it's the combination of the parts used here that kind of just throws off the proportions of the figure that look bad. And another figure that uses this is going to be none other than Shreddy Guerrero himself. He has been named here. And, I mean, there's more than just one issue with this Eddie Guerrero. It's the proportions on this guy, and it's going to be not only the proportions, but also the skin tone is wrong, as we know. And they do need to re-release this figure with a better torso and a better skin tone, because I think it would do wonders for the figure. Because I do like this figure in ways, but, man, you cannot look past these proportions, man. Look at his lower body versus his upper body. I mean, dude, this guy is just, oh, my goodness. They call him Shreddy Guerrero for a reason. Look at the skin tone. That is incorrect as well, and they could just do so much better. This figure is a miss, and you can stand in line next to your shredded friend there. I just think their proportions are all out of whack, man. If the proportions are out of whack, it'll throw you completely off, man. Let's get into the next figure, which is going to be the Ultimate Edition Edge. This is probably the one that I get the most pushback on. I feel like a lot of people really, really enjoy the Edge Ultimate for whatever reason. I am not one of those people. I think that this figure, the head sculpts weren't the greatest. I kind of do like the spearing head sculpt, as ridiculous as it is. But I just think that this torso here is so super skinny and thin. Look how narrow it is, and there's like no ab crunch here, and I know that this is before butterfly joints, so that kind of adds to it. Look how long the neck is. It looks like a finishing moves figure, man. It looks like a Jax finishing moves figure, and I can't see past it. It's just aesthetically pretty ugly, man. It's just not good. I think they could do so much better. Hopefully he'll come back one day, or maybe if you switch the torso with like a Seth Rollins or Cody Rhodes torso, it would work even better because they kind of fix some of those proportions, but it's just another one of those things where it's so narrow, and it just throws it off completely. You have the ridiculous head sculpt in there, which again, I don't mind necessarily, but his proportions are out of whack. But let's get into the last figure on my worst Ultimate Editions list. And again, man, when we rank all these Ultimates, a lot of these are going to be fluctuating. There's going to be some thrown in. There's going to be, you know, we're going to go from the very bottom all the way to the very top of every Ultimate released by Mattel. But last but not least, and I get a lot of pushback on this one as well, and I understand it. I know a lot of people like this figure, but I went with the Gunther figure. Man, whatever it is, man, it's these legs mainly that throw me off. There's like no dimension or anything in these legs, man. This is like, his legs look so weird, and when you could say, oh, that's what his legs look like or whatever, man, but there's a certain deal where, you know, back in the day, R3 and Jax, they used to do this thing where it's like real, you know, bodies, and they would like analyze the characters, the wrestlers themselves, and put their body into the figure, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it looks good or that it looks aesthetically pleasing to the eye to the figure, and I still don't think his thighs necessarily look like this. I think his Elite is much better, but I don't like how his thigh, his knee, and his calf are all the exact same width. Look how it goes straight down. That just doesn't look right to me. It does. I don't know. That just doesn't look right. It looks off. There's something off there, and I just don't like the proportions of the Gunther figure. I think that the Elite's better. I like the Elite much better in my opinion. Think it is a better figure overall, and that is my worst Ultimates. I think this is all of my worst Ultimates. Again, we're going to rank every single Ultimate Edition from Mattel soon, and that'll be really fun, but today I wanted to discuss the worst of the worst, or at least my least favorite, and I could have been leaving out one. There's probably one or two that I probably could have mentioned here, but we'll have to wait for the full ranking to get into that, but today I wanted to deal with some of the worst Ultimate Editions here. Do you agree with some of these takes? Do you not agree? I'd like to know down in the comment section below. I think that, you know, not every figure here just has zero redeeming qualities. I think there are some good things about some of these figures. I think that, you know, if I had to, you know, like, it's not like the worst as in there's nothing about these figures that is redeeming, but there are some things about these figures where you're like, man, I just don't know how you released him like that. And that's kind of what it comes down to when you look at all of these Ultimate Edition figures, man. But I'd love to know down in the comment section below what you guys think of these Ultimates. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What is your least favorite Ultimate? Tell me your least favorite Ultimate. Where do you disagree here? I know that there's going to be some disagreeers. I know there's going to be there's probably a figure in here that is somebody's favorite Mattel figure ever, or favorite Mattel WWE Ultimate, which I completely understand, man. There are some things here that I just find to be egregious, and mostly it's a proportions problem. I think that's really where, you know, things come in, because it just looks so, I don't know, it could throw a figure completely off, man. It really can. I mean, look at Shreddy Guerrero right here, man. Come on, man. Eddie deserves better than that. His figure could be so much better. But anyways, man, that is pretty much going to wrap up our worst Ultimate Editions from WWE and Mattel, man. I'd love to know all of your thoughts down below. Huge shout out to our Patreon members, man. Appreciate all you fellas. Thank you guys so very much for everything. You guys are unbelievable. But I'm getting out, man. Hope you guys did enjoy. Leave me your thoughts. I'm getting out. I'll see you next time. Have a blessed one, and I'll catch you guys later.